black humor. Back off, man. I'm a scientist. Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken. Eyes gouged from bloody sockets. Flesh burned black. Please. Away the dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hey guys, what's up? Man, that's loud, Chuck. Wow. Or Trent, I guess I should blame you on that.
Loud and smooth.
Well, welcome back, guys, to World of the Unexplained. Tonight we've got author William Beck with us. And William is a native of Ohio, near the shores of Lake Erie. He spent a lot of time in Florida. That's where he grew up at. And he volunteered for service in the U.S. Army during the later years of Vietnam. He's done a lot of stuff. When he left, he went into the medical field, and he's been doing that for a while. This is his first book in a series of books, and this book, it is a fictional take on HAARP, but we all know about HAARP, and we all know about the kinds of weird, crazy stuff the government's doing with that, and that's what he based this encounter on. He also has some martial arts experience that we'll talk about there, and he's also a certified scuba diver and underwater photographer. I think he has a black belt. No, yeah, a rank of Shodan in Goju style karate, and I hope I didn't slaughter that. But he lives currently in Nashville, Tennessee. So we've got another good Southern guy. Chuck, you're from Tennessee, right?
Originally, yeah, Knoxville.
Oh yeah, Chuck's originally from Knoxville. So we got another Tennessee guy on the deck with us tonight. So let's go ahead and bring him on.
Yeah, let's do it.
William, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you tonight, Jay?
Oh, we're doing great out here, man. How's things in Nashville? How's the weather?
Oh, it's great. We were in sort of an Indian summer right now, and it's wonderful. We had some cool weather and blue skies last week, and have just been enjoying it immensely.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, okay, we got a lot to talk about here. Wow.
Where to begin?
And we also have an autographed hardcover copy of Harp's Fury, a Bryson McGann novel, and we'll talk about that later in the show. If you guys will call in toward the end of the show, we're going to give it to the first person that calls. So it is autographed by William Beck, and it is a hardback, and the shipping didn't really damage it that much, but no, I'm kidding. It's not damaged at all. It's in great shape. Now, this is going to be the first in a series of books for you. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. The main character is Bryson McGann, and interestingly enough, his name came from my father's middle name, who was Scottish, and his name was Donald Bryson, and so I just reversed that and made it Bryson Donald McGann, and thought that Bryson would make a very interesting first name for a character.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, where did you come up with the idea of the whole HAARP? What got you interested in the HAARP concept, I guess?
Well, it's interesting because the idea to write came about, I guess it's been about 17 years ago now. And I'd been in the medical field for a while and was kind of tiring of it. And I told my wife one day I'm just kind of fed up, and I said, I want to write children's literature.
Uh-huh.
And as in the way only my wife can do, she said, well, then, okay, go for it. And so she challenged me to do that. And so I took a couple years to prepare myself to do that through some educational classes. And finally, when that was completed, I realized that at that time that I really didn't have any time to write. I was working at a large hospital in Florida.
Okay.
And I was on call quite a bit, which often had me there at all hours of the day and night, and found it quite discouraging that this passion that I had found I was unable to do anything about. And so several more years passed before the idea to write the HAARP project came about. And I was working at that time with a group of anesthesiologists, and I was their director of pain management services for a program I put together for them. And that was to take care of patients' pain needs after surgery, and then also for chronic pain patients.
Okay.
And they sent me to Atlanta to learn about some new equipment that had just come out by some of the companies. And it was while I was there at this conference that the idea to write an adult novel came to life. And so while we were there, they asked us, what is something that no one else in the world knows about you? And I thought to myself, I really hate things like this, because what do you say? And for most of us, if we have something that no one else knows, we really don't want them to know.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
Yeah.
So I kept stalling, and they kept telling about me and what I'm doing and my life, and finally they just looked at me and said, okay, what is it that nobody else knows? And I literally surprised myself. I said, I'm going to write a book. And I remember thinking, did I hear myself say that?
Wow.
And it just popped out. And at that time, I really had no idea where it came from.
No, this is your first book, right?
This is my first book,
Okay.
yes. And they said, well, that's really great. What are you going to write about? And I smiled at them confidently and said, I don't have a clue, but I am going to write a book.
Wow. Well, obviously it turned out okay.
Well, thank you. And but they quickly bypassed me after that, thinking they probably have some kind of kook sitting in the audience here.
Come on now.
It was 3 months later that I was given an article by my brother regarding the HAARP project. It was by Dr. Nick Beck H.A.A.R.P, who is pretty much well received on his knowledge of the HAARP project, and it was called Angels Don't Play This HAARP.
And I thought that was a book by, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought Grant Jeffries wrote a book called that, or maybe something similar.
He may have written something similar, but this was definitely by Nick Beck H.A.A.R.P.
Okay.
Yeah. And
see, I'm up on my HAARP reading. I know.
Well, I'm no expert on the HAARP project by any means, but I have done a lot of research on it. But anyway, I read this article, and I said, okay, that's nice, and I put it down. But something kept calling me back, and I probably read this lengthy article 7 times before it finally struck me.
Okay.
And finally, on that 7th time, I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to write about. And so what happened then was I had to go through the makings of doing an outline, start building characters. And the interesting thing is that everything that I needed to make this book happen just started arriving on my doorstep.
Really?
It was just interesting. Articles in magazines, pictures that would give me ideas, different articles that I researched, just numerous things like this over and over and over again, and I just compiled this huge mass of information that filled up my bedroom, much to my wife's dismay. But anyway, so it started to take shape at that point, and I realized that I'd just been blessed with a gift, and so I was extremely thankful for that. And after the outline was finished and the characters came to life, the process of writing began. And the interesting thing is that during this time, there were so many events in our lives that could have stopped me countless times from writing. My inspiration for writing to begin with was my children when they were much younger, and now they were into their teen years, and so there were issues with teenagers. There was the death of a very close friend that happened at work that just troubled me greatly. The death of my father, Our home was broken into in Florida.
Oh my God.
We lost about $14,000 worth of stuff. And yet through that, a great revelation came, because both my wife, Rebecca, and I realized eventually it was just stuff and it can be replaced, and it sort of gave us a whole new outlook and perspective on life. And yet through all these things, the idea to write just continued to just pound me, and I realized that I have to go forward with this. And through all this devastation and hard times, it continued, and eventually it came to life that the manuscript was completed, and that was about a year and a half after I initially started the actual writing. And I was also working full-time during that period, which made it extremely difficult.
Now, are you working full-time now, or is the writing...
No, I am working full-time now
Okay.
also. So
I was hoping that maybe the writing had taken you to a new level now, where you could kind of sit back and take a breather while you're writing the second book.
well, I'm hoping that occurs with number 3. We are in the process of hopefully working with some agents who want to get me published on it with a bigger publishing company. So that is the goal.
Okay.
But regardless, if that doesn't happen, I will continue working with number 3 that's already spinning around in my head, as number 2 is nearly completed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm very fascinated by this character you've constructed, the protagonist, Mr. McGann. Give me, if you could, give me some ideas of your inspiration for developing this character.
Well, I've reflected on that issue a number of times, just thinking about it, and I realize that, at least for me, though I'm sure many other authors probably have the same input, is that in my writing there is a part of me in the character, in my life experiences, and it always amazes me to see someone who is rather young who becomes very successful writing, because I don't really grasp how you do that without having a lot of life experiences. But so part of myself in there, as well as experiences I've had, some things that I would like to see in a character that make it interesting for people. There was part of my father in that character, so there was a whole world of things that encompassed the formation of Bryson McGann. And I wanted him to be not just a typical storybook character. What I envision for McGann as the series grows is that the reader will be introduced to more and more of Bryson McGann, and become privy to some of his inner thoughts and feelings, more so than a lot of other characters in the series. I think, and not that this is bad, but a lot of writers they detail what the character does very well, but they don't give you
What he is.
a look on the personal side of him.
Yeah.
And I really want to do that a bit more as the series continues, and I think in the next book we do get to see a little bit more of Bryson McGann, more the personal side, and of course you can't do that right at the beginning with the first book. I mean, obviously you have to.
You got to leave room for the other characters and let the plot lay out and everything like that. Now I noticed that there's a really cool story between him and I believe TC. Now, it's been a while since I've read this book, because you can imagine how many we get in the mail. But I believe TC is the guy's name that's his Indian, kind of, I guess, Indian brother in a sense, because of the things they went through when they were growing up. Where did that story, how did that develop, this bond between, well, my father and his father did this, and we did this when we were kids, and it was part of this whole, it's kind of like a rite of passage.
Right. Well, if in the prologue of Harp's Fury, it starts in 1858 in Colorado, where Bryson McGann's however many back grandfathers is introduced, who has come over from Scotland. and near the end of that prologue, ends up saving this Indian's life from a group of other Indians. And they become friends and eventually form a partnership that leads to the building of a
lucrative business.
Yes, financially successful business. And so Duncan McGann, who is Bryson's grandfather, and this Native American form this bond. And that continues as a generation goes on also. And so with each generation that's passed, this sort of rite of passage has just become the thing that the family does, and they become very, very close and are very much like brothers.
I understand that, but what I was asking is was that story, that rite of passage, how did you come up with that? Was that something based on your own personal experience growing up, or was that something based on someone that you knew, or is that just something that you're like, hey, the creative juices are flowing and here it is?
No, that was simply the creative juices flowing, because I wanted to have another character involved with McGann, because obviously one person, it's pretty unrealistic that one person can do everything in a story of this type. And so there needed to be another character that was very close to Bryson McGann. And so I thought, how can I do this? And I've always been fascinated by the Native American culture. And so I thought, well, let's figure out how we can do this after this prologue was written. And so that's how Joe Canton and Bryson McGann sort of came to life and become basically family friends and longtime associates in their life's quests.
Okay. We're talking with author William Beck tonight. That number's 800-960-2289, or locally at 336-996-1596. Call him. You can ask him about Harp. You can ask him about Bryson McGann. You can ask him about anything in this book, or you can even ask him about writing in general. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to field any of those questions for you. The number's, again, 800-960-2289, or locally 336-996-1596. And, wow. Let's talk a little bit about Harp. What made you, what brought this subject to your attention? I know you said the article, but what made you say, you know what, this is a great way to start my story?
Well, after reading it for the 7th time, I guess the idea struck me that, this is a fascinating topic. We have a project here that is sitting in Alaska, that is in the face of many people, is known, and yet there's a lot of controversy involved in the project itself as to what its real intentions are. And so I've always sort of been, I hate to say a conspiratorialist, but I'm always
Oh, come on.
But I'm always fascinated by those things. And I was very intrigued by what Nick Begich had to say in his article, and so then as I started doing some more research and finding some other articles and things written about the HAARP project, and then finding the project site's own website and what they had to say, I'm thinking this is very divergent on what people are talking about on the other end of the scale, and so I just became extremely fascinated by that, and I thought, well, this would make a great topic, because it's something that really exists, and yet it's something that you can write fiction about and make very interesting for people. And so that is what I've done with my writing. There's a term out there now called faction, which is a blending of fiction and fact. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I've done in my work, and also will continue to do as the next novels proceed.
What do you think is... it's a little off topic, but what do you think? What do you think? Well, I guess I'll bring it back on topic. I'll ask you this question later. I know it's really bad hosting, but we just play it by ear here.
No problem.
What do you think? How much of this do you think is real, as far as the things that go on in the HAARP facility? What do you think is a possible outcome from some of it? What do you think they're really doing down there, I guess, is the question I ask. And what do you think? Do you think that some of the things that happen in this book are possibilities of actually realistically occurring?
Well, there's a whole list of things that supposedly the HAARP project can do. If you go to the project site itself and look at that, you will see that the claims are that it is an ionospheric heater, and it's used to study the ionosphere and also the effects of transmitting signals for communication purposes through the ionosphere. And on the surface, it all looks very innocuous. And, this makes sense if you look at it. And it's right there on the Internet for people to see. And a lot of people probably think, well, sure, this is exactly what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
However, we all know that there's a lot of things that go on in our government today that we have no real idea about. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing. I think, and let me preface that by saying that the basis of HAARP's theory is that the weather is being controlled by someone who wants to dominate the world. And so in that light, going back to my research, we go back to the Eisenhower era back in the 50s when he was president, and people at that time were talking quite openly in the administration about the possibility of controlling the weather.
Yeah.
And on the surface, that has great potential to do some very wonderful things for people in areas that are drought-ridden, those type of things. However, the potential to do some serious harm also exists. It's a two-sided coin. And so as we progress through the years and look at some of the things that the government did with particular projects, it becomes very interesting in wondering whether or not they actually have something other than its intended purpose. And my personal feelings are this.
Remember, let me preface this by telling you to remember that our U.S. government is monitoring our radio show.
Seriously, they do.
Well, I have a very close friend who is in the FBI.
Okay, watch out.
Uh-oh. And so far, no one's knocked at my door.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. However, they could well be listening. But,
yeah, we don't care. We talk to them all the time.
We try to get them on the show, and
we try to get them to call in. They won't.
They never do.
They just won't do it, right?
That's right. No. But anyway, go ahead. I mean, I don't know. I guess what I'm asking, I've got two questions. One related to weather and HAARP. What do you think? We're going to take a break. I'm going to give you the question now, though. And the question is, the first part of the question is, do you think that HAARP was used, and do you think that's what led to the outcome of the hurricane outbreak we had in Florida the past year? And secondly, do you think that it's being used for, like some people say, to, control people's minds?
Okay.
Well, numbers here. Yeah, we're going to have to take a break. But the numbers here are 800-960-2289 and locally 336-996-1596. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. We're on the OmniSound Radio 1 network. Please give us a call. Speak with us and author William Beck, author of HAARP's Fury. Stick around, guys. We'll be right back after this.
We'll see you.
Every Halloween at midnight, the devil simultaneously appears in two places: the high plains of India and a quiet cemetery in Kansas. It's November 2nd, the Day of the Dead. Two federal marshals report to the small town of Shinbone, Kansas, moments after a tornado warning, to transport a prisoner with no past, no identity. He is known only as Sin Jin Smith. Starring Roddy Piper, Richard Tyson, Jonathan Davis, Kevin Gage, Gary Casper, John Philbin, Billy Duffy, Charles Cypers, and Eileen Dietz. Check out the movie that critics are calling one of 2007's most anticipated horror films by visiting www.sinjinsmith.com. That's www.sin-jinsmyth.com. St. Jin Smith is a Snapkick Productions film, written and directed by Ethan Detmeyer. Coming soon to a theater near you. You're listening to the OmniSound Radio 1 Network, bringing you the apocalypse with a twist of lime. www.omnisoundradio1.net.
And we're back on World of the Unexplained. We're here tonight with William Beck, author of Harp's Fury, a Bryce and McGann novel. Now, before we went to break, I asked you a question. Basically, one, do you think that the extreme weather activity in Florida over the past year was caused by someone trying to manipulate the system using HAARP? You know, just a personal opinion question. And then the second part of that question was, do you think that it may be into the mind control realm? I know that sounds kind of crazy, but you know, there's all kinds of theories.
That's one of the common theories about it. Anyway.
Right. Well, you know, it's interesting because having lived in Florida, one of the big things you always bite your nails over during the 6 months out of the year is whether or not you're going to get hit by a hurricane. And that is actually one of the reasons that precipitated my wife and I leaving Florida.
Oh, yeah.
And going to Vermont because we were just tired of having to deal with that every summer. And having been through some small effects of hurricanes, I can't imagine what Katrina was like. That must have just been absolutely devastating. But I've thought about this over the years and have been a fan of the Weather Channel and have spoken with Jim Cantori on a couple of occasions, and have watched weather maps over the years and have been intrigued by some of the way things have worked out by hurricanes heading in certain directions or taking odd turns that just didn't seem natural and things like that. Hopefully, if this truly is being used, that we certainly had nothing to do with it. We, being the U.S. government, that caused devastation in our own country under the guise of experimentation. Although there is some talk that Russia has also experimented with this, and I've also read some things that China is trying to do something with that. And it's of course all very secretive if that is what's going on. But what greater way to devastate an area or a country than to have something like Katrina happen and cost billions of dollars, lives, disrupt things, send the price of oil skyrocketing, and just all the things that rode along with that hurricane and the outcomes of those. So, do I think it's possible that technology was responsible for some of the crazy weather? I have to say, I think probably it could be a possibility. I mean, there's no way for anyone to obviously prove that is so. But is it an experiment run amok that just had some bad outcomes, or is it countries other than our own that are playing with this that allowed this to happen? The very interesting thing about weather things, when I was researching the book, about 2/3 of the way through the book, I found a website called wildweather.com, which is no longer up and running, unfortunately, but it was a great website because it detailed daily accounts of weather events throughout the entire world. And I would go and look at these things, and you would just see countless weather events that would happen in places you would never expect things to happen. It just blew my mind. It was just unbelievable. And it just went on and on and on and on. And actually, it was interesting because I'd already written about him in my book, but in the first couple chapters, it talks about an avalanche over around in the Caucasus Mountains, and also down in Peru, some devastation there caused by weather. And there were actually an event around Peru that was pretty much what I detailed in the book after the fact. And I thought, boy, this is too creepy. This is really interesting. And so, if the HAARP project is causing weather disturbances or weather pattern changes. Are we involved with it? Well, I have to say that, any time that the military is involved with something, and if they feel that it is going to be beneficial for the good of the country, they're certainly going to explore it, if nothing else. And have they perfected it and caused the weather things in Florida? Well, people are going to kind of have to make up their mind about that, too, because, as I said, there's no way to obviously prove that. But
it could happen.
Certainly a very, very interesting topic.
Now, there was I don't know what this person's name is, I don't remember, but I was talking, I don't know if you used any of, Jerry Smith's books to...
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I have that sitting right here next to me.
Okay. We've had Jerry on the show before.
Yes.
And he's a really nice guy. And, Jerry was talking about, I don't know, it's been so long since I've read his book, and he may have mentioned it in the book, and maybe it was just in the interview, I don't remember at this stage of the game, but he had talked about a like a rogue meteorologist that was out there for a long period of time that was basically... He was predicting the weather not by the jet streams that I guess normal meteorologists use. He would say, well, the jet stream would say this, but somehow or another he had some kind of data that linked it to HAARP, and he was saying that he was making more than accurate predictions, even more so than the regular meteorologist. Does this ring a bell with you?
I sort of recall. It has been a while since I've read his book also,
okay.
But that does sort of ring a bell. Which would lead one to believe that if that is the case, then obviously there's some insider information going on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I don't even know if this website's still up. I just remember Jerry talking about this guy, and I don't know, like I said, who knows? Oh,
yeah,
well.
Jerry's an interesting guy. I've spoken with him on a couple of occasions, and we've swapped books. And
okay, cool.
Yeah,
he's a real nice
going
guy.
back to the thing about the military, or
mind control.
They're very much involved, obviously, in this project, and supposedly now it is mainly the Navy, more so than the Air Force, which both were involved previously. But there was a paper presented to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force in 1996, written by a group of military officers, detailing that by 2025, basically, one of the goals of the Air Force should be that the weather modification capabilities are available and being able to manipulate weather, obviously, for military purposes. And that actually comes out of Jerry's book. But I find that quite fascinating. Obviously, if we're talking about it happening by 2025, somebody's playing with something somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You would think so.
Especially for him to put a date on it like that.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the mind control end of this?
Well, that also is a very interesting aspect of this thing. There's a lot of talk that there's a whole list of things. Let me just mention a couple of the other things that are available, and then we'll get back to the mind control thing. But it talks about its use for interference with communications, different types of radio transmissions, using it for tomography, which is like an X-ray of the Earth for finding subterranean installations or mineral or gas deposits, weapons-related things. So there's a whole host of things that this thing claims that it can do, but it's pretty much a well-known fact that both this country and also Russia had been involved with mind control events, and it certainly makes, at least to me, perfect sense when I've read some things about that by dictating a certain frequency, that you can enter, if I may use that word, into people's minds and control their thoughts. Basically, our bodies are energy, energy fields running on positive and negative ions. And so if there's a way that you can somehow send some type of electrical signal to somebody's brain and make that signal specific, it certainly seems plausible to me that that could happen. And you think about all the wacky stuff that goes on in this world today. You wonder if
some of that is happening.
Yeah, or if people are just affected by other things with like microwaves, all those type of different things that we're being bombarded with. Radio signals, TV signals, they all pass through our body constantly. So
I got a creepy email. I guess I don't know how long ago this is, from our program director, probably about 6 months ago, and it was using the way that they mix the record or whatever, the way that the sound waves and everything combined, and if you set this piece of sound up on a graph where you could see what kind of waveform it actually made, it would look like this evil demonic face.
Oh.
And we thought it was the creepiest thing in the world. He had to send it to me, right? So I've got that somewhere around here. If anybody wants a copy of it, just email me here, worldtheunexplained@gmail.com. It's some crazy looking stuff. And then I'll have to even dig it up, but I'll have to find it. But it was really creepy looking. I'm thinking, if they can put something like that into a sound wave to make that kind of visual, what does that do with your mind when you hear these frequencies? Does it make this image form in your mind? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's very interesting, and then the other side of that coin is, are some people more susceptible than others to this type of thing?
That's true.
You look at some of these crazy events that happen where people just go off the deep end all of a sudden, and it's like,
What did George W. send to the Islamo-fascist? I mean,
Richard Armitage, that's the answer.
Touché, Monsieur Brother.
Here's our Chuck, our political commentator. I'm telling you what, this man knows more about politics than any person I know alive. He knows them all.
Brookings needs to hire me.
Oh, yeah.
We'll give him a job in the next administration.
Exactly, man. He can't do worse than what's there now.
Exactly.
So when did you move out to Nashville, William? How long's it been? How long have you lived there?
Well, we moved here in December of 2002.
Okay.
My wife and I had been wanting to leave Florida for some time and talked about it for quite a few years, and realized that as the kids were growing up, we didn't want to disrupt them.
Oh, yeah.
And, so once they took off for college, I said, it's time to go.
Y'all took off to Nashville.
Well, actually, we went to Nashville by way of Vermont, so it's very interesting. But we decided to sell just about everything we own, kept all our mementos and pictures and things like that, but everything else had a sale, it's gone.
Wow.
And we had some friends that had moved to Vermont in 1992, and we'd been up there to visit them numerous times, and just really fell in love with New England.
That's a nice place.
Oh, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's just phenomenal.
It's cold in the winter there.
Well, that's part of the beauty.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, the winter we were there was warm.
Wow.
By Vermont standards, yeah. So there you go. There's the heart project at work.
There it is,
following me. But,
a warm Vermont winter.
Right. But we just fell in love with it, and so moved up there, and our friends were gracious enough to let us stay with them for about a month until we found a place to live, and we worked at a small little community hospital up there in Vermont. That was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in medicine, although it was physically the most demanding job and about killed us. But it was just incredible, and met some very interesting people. And but after a year and a half there, just realized that it's not where we were going to be able to be for a number of reasons. Housing prices shot through the roof, as well as land prices and taxes, and so it just became unattainable. And so we had a great year and a half vacation in Vermont, and it was wonderful, and we try to get back up there and visit friends and as often as possible. And but it was just I just can't say enough about the place. I miss it greatly.
So possible.
So it was, after that point, it was, well, where do we go? So do we go back to Florida, or do we go to Nashville, where my wife is originally from? And through a number of circumstances, Nashville won out, and it was there that the book got published. So that was meant to be, and here we are, at least for the moment, and I'm enjoying Nashville very much. It's a great city.
Well, let me tell people where your website is. If you want to visit William's website, you can go to www.booksbybeck.com. That's booksbybeck.com, B-E-C-K. And William Beck, you can find him there. I believe you can order copies there, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct in that?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Now,
they make great gifts, by the way.
Oh yes, of course, great gifts. And Christmas is coming up, so
absolutely
it is.
If you want to introduce a loved one to Harp, but just don't know how to do it.
Try Harp's Fury.
Try Harp's Fury by William Beck. It's a starter to get them into it, thinking it's fiction, and then you can bring the awful truth to light after they get into the novel. So. So this now can they get this on Amazon, or is this something?
Oh yes, yeah, it's on all the major online bookstores also. Yes.
And what about locally in Tennessee? Are you in any of the local bookstores?
Yes, I am. Nashville's premier bookstore, Davis Kid.
Uh-huh.
It's on the shelves there, and that's actually where I did my initial book signing. And it's not on the shelves locally other than that, and there's a whole host of reasons for that, because the book world is a very interesting place.
Oh, I've heard.
And so unless you're with a major publisher, it's very difficult to
it's so expensive, and it's just so expensive to get all those books out to all those stores.
Right, and then they want you to do buybacks if they don't sell, and you don't have the capability of doing that. But the press that I'm with here in Nashville has been a delight to work with. Excellent people. I can't say enough about them. Hugh Daniel, who is the editor there, has just been superb. Has become a wonderful friend, actually, and it's just been a blessing to be able to work with them, because I've heard some real horror stories from people that I've talked to, have called me up or emailed me, and people want. This one lady said that she was trying to get her book published through a private press, and they wanted $18,000 to do her novel.
Oh, that's such
and
a
she
BS.
said, what do you think I should do? And I said,
hang up on them. Report them to the Better Business Bureau.
As fast as you can. Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd.
Report them to World of the Unexplained. I like to go off on people from time to time. It'll give us something to do here.
Go for it.
It's awful. It's awful what people will do in any business to gain to lure somebody in. Yeah, it's terrible. But the artwork in this book's really good too. The cover, who designed that?
Mm-hmm. Actually, Hugh Daniel did.
Wow.
We sat down and talked. I gave him my ideas of what I wanted, and since the Harp project has to do with the aurora, we wanted something with that. Wanted something of sort of an Alaskan type landscape, since that's where the project is. I had talked about mountains, and he came up with this sort of dark, mysterious-looking forest-type thing with the aurora borealis above it. And that little red dot that is up there in the sky on the cover is actually supposed to be one of the satellites that's involved with the Harp project.
Oh.
So that's what that is.
That is not a misprint. Okay.
It's intentional.
Yeah, that was Hugh's idea up there, and I said, great, let's just leave it. And but yeah, he did a great job with the artwork, and the book itself is put together by Lightning Source, which is a division of Ingram Press, which is very well known and does quality work for all types of different authors. So I got to give them a little plug and say thanks, because they do great work. I've seen some horrible bindings on books that people have had done and things, and this is just as professional as it gets anywhere. So
it looks really good. Now, what about formal training? Now, I've been reading the book. Now, I go off a lot on this show about writers that write books and when the writing's bad, but this is actually fairly well written, and that's why I'm asking. Do you have any formal training in writing? Did you have a journalism class? Do you have a degree in English? Do you have any kind of creative writing experience before this?
No, I was a roofer
A
No,
what?
I'm just kidding.
Wait a minute. I don't see this in the bio anywhere. All right.
William Beck was also a roofer.
Just wanted to see if you were paying attention.
I was.
Well, actually, I've always had an interest in writing. You know, I go back to the song from the Beatles, "Paperback Writer."
Oh yeah, I know that song.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 1966 or something. I always remember when I heard that song, I was fascinated. I said, what a great thing to do for a living, you know, writing books. And that song has always kind of stuck with me. And in my school years, I wanted to be a teacher and was invested heavily into English and grammar and literature in my education, and I thought at one time I wanted to become a teacher.
Uh-huh.
And then got thinking, boy, that's a lot of paperwork that I have to do.
Oh, yeah.
I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. And so then I ended up getting involved with medicine, which has more paperwork than teachers do. But,
what brought you to I'll ask you this question, you can come back to it, but what brought you to the medical field? Was that your experience in the Army, or?
Yes, it was, as a matter of fact.
Okay, you can go back to the English question now if you want and come back to that. But I didn't want to make you lose your train of thought. I was thinking that might be the case, but
yeah. Well, so with the English, you know, as I said, I was pretty heavily invested in that in my schooling, and have always enjoyed that. And I think one of the first things I ever wrote, I worked for McDonald's. It was a franchise McDonald's.
I've been there. Oh man, that was my first job. It sucked. It was awful.
We all lived that one. So this franchise wanted to stay open on Thanksgiving, and I just, you know, my family's always been very close, and holidays been very important. And I was just appalled. And I remember telling my parents at that time, it's like, you know, this just really upsets me that they want to be open on Thanksgiving, and I got to work.
Yeah.
And so I composed a letter, which basically, and I don't remember what was in it now, but it was basically correlating the idea of, you know, what if McDonald's had been around when the Pilgrims were here? And
I'll take the Big Mac and the Value Meal 2 for my Indian buddy here.
That's right. And so Thanksgiving would have been totally different from what we know today. And so I presented it to my manager at that time, and he thought it was great, and he sent it up to the corporate office in St. Petersburg, and they read it, and they said, okay, we're not going to be open. And so for the 3 years that I worked at McDonald's, they were never open on Thanksgiving.
Is this the entire corporation of McDonald's?
No, this was a franchise. They had, if I remember right, they had about 20 stores or so.
That's a lot for a franchisor.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were a big franchise, and I don't know if that's been, you know.
Oh, they're open today.
Ago.
We're all atheist and communist and everything else nowadays. They're open. You know, they're open today. I mean, who cares about family values, William? It's
exactly.
It's awful. It's awful. I'm serious. It is.
Shame on me.
But you know, but don't talk about anything not politically correct, because then they'll crucify you.
Exactly. Yeah. Amen to that.
Oh me. Well, we're getting ready to take another break here.
Break time.
Okay.
Let me. I think we got 2 minutes. Let me squeeze this in. Your Army experiences, is that what got you into the medical field?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. I joined the Army in 1973, and in 1971 and 72, those were the last 2 years of the draft. And I came very close to being drafted in both those years by just a couple numbers away. Ooh. And so I'd finished 2 years of college in 73 and decided, I think I'm just going to sign up.
Oh, wow.
Because at that time they had a guarantee where you could stay stateside for 16 months.
Oh, that's cool.
And Vietnam was winding down. It's like I would have gone, but really had no desire to go.
Oh, no joke.
So joined the Army, and my choices at that time, where I decided I wanted my duty station to be, were chaplain's assistant, a cook, or a medical records specialist. And I knew I didn't want to work on Sunday morning. I sure didn't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and cook eggs for about 100 million people.
Yeah, no joke.
And I said, well, I'll be a medical records clerk. And so went to basic training, and then Fort Jackson for advanced training, and then Fort Sam Houston, which is the Army's medical center. Great place. And then ended up Fort Benning, Georgia for 2.5 years in a MASH unit. And it was a 2nd Combat Support Hospital. And this company actually went back to World War I. It was a 2nd evacuation hospital back in World War I, and apparently during World War I they were overrun and most of the people killed, and it was an interesting history. And so they wore their 2, which signified their company, upside down in honor of those people. But it was interesting. And
William, I hate to cut you off. We're going to have to take a short break, but we're going to be right back on World of the Unexplained. Stick around, guys.
And we're back to World of the Unexplained with William Beck.
That's right.
Listeners, if you want to call in and talk to William Beck about his book, Harp, whatever.
Harp's Fury.
Harp's.
I'm sorry, I have the book over here.
Okay, Harp's Fury, Harp.
Or whatever, I got you.
Or whatever. I was just being brief, you know?
Okay.
Wow. Okay, it's 1-800-960-2289. Or the local number is 336-996-1596. And also, don't forget to jump in our chat room if you're feeling kind of shy, and you can ask questions there.
Yeah, I saw a question in the chat room earlier, and I ignored it. I'm sorry.
I'll look for it. You go back to
what
great. You guys were talking about.
Well, we were talking about Vietnam experience, but I wanted to make a note. We did have a call. Somebody called us during the break, and we just missed it. We'll put it that way. So if you guys want to, I'm not going to tell you the tech diffs we had here. So if you guys want to call us back here, 800-960-2289, just give us a shout back, and we'll put you on with William Beck. About the the Vietnam experience that changed your life. You started doing, I guess this is more paperwork kind of thing, and then you got more involved. Is this what led you to go into this field as a career?
Well, yeah, being involved with a MASH unit, it gave me a whole new perspective on life. Obviously, we weren't in a battle zone or anything like that, but I was fascinated by what was going on around me, and so as I was ending my 3-year stint in the military, I realized that going back in the civilian world held the real possibility that I had to get a job for a living.
Oh man, those are awful.
What a bummer. And so I got thinking about, what can I do? And
we've got a caller. I hate to interrupt you. Is that cool?
Go ahead.
All right. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
Carlina, calling from Richmond, Virginia.
All right. How we sounding in Richmond?
I was just calling to talk to Mr. Beck.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Carlina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Good. Just wanted to let you know that I loved your book, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Oh, wow.
Well, good. I appreciate hearing that. And the next one is getting very close to being done. And we're hoping that this one comes out with a major publisher, but if not, still be available at the same place as Harp's Fury.
Okay. I'll definitely be looking for it. Any ideas on a date?
I'm hoping by the end of the year.
Okay.
That's my goal now when I get finished with it. Now, if it gets picked up by a major publisher, then, how soon that comes out, I don't know at that point. It obviously be some period of time. But in the meantime, I'd be working on number 3, Caribbean Agenda. So,
okay.
And,
all right.
Something for the fans to think about and look forward to. So.
Wonderful. Well, I will definitely be watching the website, waiting for you to post the date that it's coming out.
Well,
awesome.
I will do that. And,
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for calling in.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Good talking to you.
Thank you.
All right, you too.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot. Wow, okay.
Wow.
Cool. You've got some fans out there that are listening to our show, even better. Maybe they'll be our fans too now.
That's
All
right.
We'll steal your fans. No.
We'll share the fans, Scott. Fans are to be shared.
Maybe we can work out a financial arrangement.
Uh-oh. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Awesome from Richmond, Virginia. That's a good little trip away from Nashville.
Yeah, it is.
That's really great. How many books have you sold so far, or are you at liberty to say?
I don't check Amazon.com, but on my own, several thousand. So.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, I've done a lot of book signings, a lot of promotion, and working tirelessly, of course, too.
I can understand that. Self-promotion is what we do too. It's really tough, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And
really tough.
you know, the interesting thing is when you first get started doing that, it's like you realize you have to talk about yourself, you know, and it's not something I was really accustomed to doing a lot, and but I've become quite comfortable with it now, so I have no problem.
Now the cut you sent me originally you sent me a soft cover book, and you sent me a hardcover to give out to some lucky caller tonight. That could be you anyway. And so you know now did these hard copies, do you still have these? Do you sell these, or are you mainly selling the soft cover books, or is it a choice?
They're both available, and they're both doing quite well. And finding it's probably maybe about 60% soft cover and 40% hard cover.
Okay.
But, you know, since Christmas is coming out, you know, the hardcover makes a really nice gift.
Oh, yeah, of course it does. And you, dedicated listeners, can have a copy. Yeah, that's right. Call in when we announce that. But okay, we talked about the Vietnam thing. Did I wrap that up well, or you were still going on a little bit? Do you want to talk some more about that?
As I got toward the end of my time in the service, I realized that, you know, I needed to do something on the outside, and this is kind of a funny story. I ended up deciding on becoming a registered nurse for a number of reasons, but
I'm not going to make the Fokker joke. I'm not going to do it.
It was there, and you
I've
refrained.
heard them all, trust me.
I bet. No, I've got a good friend of mine, actually. Trent, you remember Ben from high school?
I know Ben.
Yeah, he's a registered nurse over at Baptist, and he loves it, man. He loves it to death.
Yeah. Great
money, great hours. So he's real happy with it.
Well, good. Well, that's why I'm going into writing, because I've been there, done that, and I'm ready to do something else. But but anyway, so I went to interview at this college and speak to the director of nursing, who is since deceased, and her name was Harriet H.A.A.R.P, and she was a former Army colonel.
Wow.
She was a nurse. And so I remember being summoned into her office. Now, you've got to keep in mind, I'm fresh out of the Army at this time, okay?
Okay.
And so she calls me, and I'm standing in front of her desk, and I'm standing there at parade rest because I'm so used to doing that after 3 years of being in the military. And she's grilling me for about 20 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
And they asked me why I want to do this and blah, 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 and, you know, just going on, and, you know, I'm just giving the answers right back to her, and I stood there probably about 20, 25 minutes, and she says, "Would you like to have a seat?" And I said, "Well, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much." I no sooner sat down in that chair, and she said, "Is there anything else you have to say, William?"
Oh, man, that's wrong.
No, I guess not. She said, "Okay. Well, we'll consider your application. Thank you very much."
Oh, that's so awful. That is so awful.
But I got in, and actually, she was great for that program. She ran a tight ship and a very, very good program. So I'm thankful for that.
That's good.
But it was interesting.
What is that noise? Is that on our end? Sorry. I just hear some feedback. I'm like, at first I thought it was is it me? Oh, it might be me. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're such professionals here. I just heard this like ding ding noise.
Well,
like,
we have little
that?
leprechauns with bells.
It could be.
You know, they're running around back there. We try to keep them quiet.
Maybe Michael Zarian let the leprechauns.
That's true. Well, they were in the P.O. box, remember? You know, with air holes punched in the box.
You would not believe what we get in our P.O. box, William.
Do I dare ask?
Oh man, it gets crazy sometimes. Sometimes I'm like,
it's pretty interesting.
Should we open this before we leave in case it might be something bad? No, we get pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
We do have some strange mail every now and then, but you know it's fun. We should start reading it on the air sometime.
That's true.
Yeah, the Wotu grab bag of funny mail and email. We get some crazy emails sometimes too.
That would be very interesting.
But I'm interested in your and your martial arts experience. Now, I myself hold a first dan in Taekwondo. I don't know how familiar you are with that. I think everybody knows it, but it's, and I see this is I'm going to have to cheat and look at the book here. Shodan, the rank of Shodan. I guess it's a first degree black belt in Goju style. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, it is correct. Yes.
Okay, can you tell me about that? How did you first get into martial arts? And I mean, it takes a long time. I know from personal experience. It takes some time to get that black belt. It
does. It's interesting. Ever since I was a kid, there were a couple things I wanted to do. One was scuba dive. I remember watching Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges. Oh, wow. I don't know if you all know that show or not. That goes back a long time. But he was a scuba diver, and I was just fascinated by that. So I've been able to do that in life. But I was also fascinated by the martial arts. And so it was while I was in Florida, a friend of mine who was a nurse also had become involved with a program in Bradenton, Florida. There was a very small program. It was almost like private instruction. And he talked to me for a few months about it, and I said, well, I've just got to go and see this. I'm fascinated. And so I went to visit the dojo and watch everybody do their thing. And I said, yeah, I really want to do this. So I spoke with the instructor, and he said, since you're a friend of Tony's, I'd be happy to have you in my class. And his name's Chuck Dyer, and he'd been an instructor for about 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And just phenomenal. That's all I can say. Was phenomenal.
Are you still practicing?
And so took classes for him for about 4 years, and obtained my first degree black belt through him. And he retired right before he was going to give us our second degree black belt. He said, in any other person's dojo, you would have all been second degree black belts. He said, but I like to just do things a little bit more than other people, and but unfortunately I'm going to retire. But so I didn't make that second degree belt, but it doesn't matter. I've got the first one, and I do know what I know, and it was interesting, fun, great time, learned a lot, and it was just a phenomenal experience, a great lesson in discipline, and highly recommend that for anybody interested in the martial arts to get involved with a good program with a good instructor. It's great for exercise, it's great for self-discipline. Hopefully you'll never, ever need it to protect yourself, but if you do, hopefully there's a way out of a situation for you. But
have you ever had an encounter like that?
That would be my question.
Sorry.
Well, that was the question.
No,
I mean,
I'm
you
sorry,
asked it. Don't worry about it.
No,
Go ahead.
Okay. There was actually, I've never had an altercation of any great instance, but there was this one instance when we took the kids to SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida, surprisingly enough. Oh. And the day we went, this was many years ago, for some reason the computers were down and they had to admit people by just passing out tickets by hand the old-fashioned way. And so the lines were just very, very long, and so we were obediently waiting in line. And we'd been in line probably for about 25 minutes or so, and we're getting fairly close to the booth. And this foursome of older people, they were probably in their mid-60s at that time, just decided they were going to cut right in front of us.
Oh, you didn't beat up the old people, man. Come on.
Do go on, William.
Oh, no. He beat up Grandpa.
So anyway, it just incensed me a little bit. Here are my kids and us waiting and everybody else, and you're going to cut in front line. I tapped the fellow on the shoulder, who's actually a big man. He was probably about 6'5", 6'6".
Wow.
And seemed to be pretty fit for his age, and probably weighed about 230 pounds. And I said, excuse me, sir, I don't know if you know this or not.
The line starts here, buddy.
Yeah, it's back that way, all the way over there with those people. Well, that's all right. I'm just going to stand right here. And I said, excuse me. I said, the line is back there. Well, no, we're just going to stand here. I know you don't mind. I said, as a matter of fact, I do mind.
Uh-oh.
And so there's an acupressure point right above your elbow.
I see a Bryson McGann move coming here.
Yeah.
See, I told you a little bit about the author comes out in everybody's writing. And so I gently pressed on this man's acupressure point, which elicited a holler from him, and just gingerly held on to it and smiled at him the whole time. And I said, now, sir, I don't care where you go, but you're not going to stand in front of me or my children. You can go right behind me, you can go to the end of the line, but you are going to move.
Oh, wow.
He was trying to get away, and he couldn't move, and he's hollering, oh, okay, whatever, you know. And so he finally ended up going to the back of the line. But that's probably the only biggest experience I've ever had. And I'm proud to say that I haven't had any altercations or anything. And one of the things that my instructor did say, there's nothing wrong with using your feet to get out of a situation. So
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Wow.
Scott didn't do that one time at a bar.
Oh man, this is years ago. I was in much better shape. Yeah, I smashed a guy's head into the. Yeah, Well, I'd had a few myself, but he had a lot more, and I was like 20 at the time. And you know how you are. You're 20 years old. This guy's a pretty big guy. He was in construction. He was talking all this nasty trash to these women across the bar from us.
Oh, geez.
And I said, man, you don't need to talk like that here. And the bartender was a buddy of mine, Chip, and Chip's like, hey, man, you want me to get rid of him? I'm like, no, that's cool. And he grabbed my arm, and I told him, you got 3 seconds to let go of my arm or some bad things are going to happen. And, back then I had, like I said, you're 20 years old, you've got this mentality of you're invulnerable, you're indestructible.
Ich bin unbesiegbar.
Exactly, yeah.
Ich bin unbesiegbar.
Yeah, Trent speaks fluent Russian, by the way.
That was German.
Oh, German. Well, see, I don't speak either one, as you can tell. But I just threw an arm bar on him, and I meant to put him on the ground, but unfortunately, his head hit the bar as he went down his forehead, and it was really bad. But the guy's like, "No, I'm gonna let." And then I started talking all tough. I'm like, "No, look, I'm gonna let you up if everything's cool, right?" And man, that stuff works, man.
Oh, it totally does. So there wasn't subtle or polite at all.
Oh, no,
it was just Scott having a few, and
oh yeah,
it was great.
Well, yeah, you can meet some very obnoxious people out there.
Oh man, there are a bunch of jerks out there, man. And you run into them, unfortunately. And I've been fortunate enough; I haven't had that many situations like that. So it's all good. But it does keep you in good shape, and I really need to get back into it. Are you currently active in that in your area now?
Well, no, I'm not, and I've really considered doing it, and a part of me does, but a part of me doesn't want to go through all the pain.
Oh man, it's tough after you've been gone for a while, getting back into that. Oh
yeah,
God.
I've had a few minor injuries over the years doing that stuff, and it's like, pain does hurt. It's not fun. So.
I had one of my instructors actually, he ended up having to get his hip replaced. Well, you know how Taekwondo, you got a lot of those flip kick moves, and you just really use your hips.
Right. Yeah.
And he ended up having his hip replaced. He says now it works better than ever, but a lot of pain.
Yes, indeed. Well, I remember the first night, and I didn't find out until about 3 or 4 months after this happened, but the first night I ever sparred my karate instructor, I broke a bone in his foot.
Oh, my God.
Just a reflex type thing, and never even saw him flinch.
Oh, God.
And I'm thinking, man, I would not want to meet this man on the street.
Definitely not. Those instructors are bad, man.
Yeah.
They're really bad.
But
there's a reason why they're up there.
Yeah, he did tell me it hurt like hell, though.
Now, let me ask you about the scuba diving. I know I've spent a lot of time in your personal experience, but I'm just trying to get a kind of gather an idea of what you use to construct Bryson McGann. And I know a lot of that does, when you write books like this, especially your prize character, a lot of that comes from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that he does a lot of the Navy scuba kind of thing. Where did you get that training in the Army, or did you get that training later in life? How did that work for you?
Independently.
Well, if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Uh-oh. We've heard that before.
I thought that line was going to work.
We're not at the bar.
Actually, as I said, watching, I don't know if you know who Lloyd Bridges, the actor, was, Jeff Bridges' father.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
we know.
I always had a fascination with it, and so I had the opportunity to take some classes, and just really fell in love with it, and it was just a phenomenal experience over the years. But it all sort of came about also because I had an event where I nearly drowned and was rescued by a lady that I was with at the beach, which was nice that she saved me.
Wow.
But so I had a fear of the water, and I thought, well, if I'm going to get over this, and I'm living in Florida, and I like boating and all these other water things, I've got to find some way of getting past that. And so I decided with some friends that I'll go and take some scuba lessons. And so off and running we went, and after you swim around for a while under the water, it's like, well, what else is there to do? And so, got involved with photography, and really enjoyed that, and learned some interesting things about photography, and interesting correlation between fish and people at book signing events, and it was just a fun ride doing that. So. Been a lot of fun.
Okay. We've got we're going to take a short break here in just a second.
Last one for the night.
Yeah, the last one for the night. Now we do have now we've got 2 questions for you.
We'll get to those
in our chat room, and we're going to get to those questions as soon as we come back. We've got like I said, you guys, if you're shy, that's cool, but we'd rather you call in. Because we like that. So
we like to hear your voices.
That's right. We haven't had a lot of callers tonight, and you don't want me to rant. No. 800-960-2289 or 336-996-1596. Why don't you call during the break and we can talk informally with Arthur William Beck. All right, we'll be back in just a second after this, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in just a moment with William Beck here on World of the Unexplained.
And we're back to World of the Unexplained with William Beck. Once again, our numbers are 1-800-960-2289 and 336-996-1596. Right now we have 2 questions in the chat room. We'll just start with the first one. Were your characters based on real people you have known? We'll start with that.
The Bryson McGann, as I said, is sort of a combination of some of my life experiences, some things about my father. So yeah, I guess you can say that yes, it's that Bryce McGann has some things that have really been experienced, and I think in a lot of the other characters too, there's not necessarily myself per se, but other people that I've known over the years that have influenced me in numerous ways. They're involved in some of the character makeup. The interesting thing about Fletcher Durnalk, who is the antagonist in the book, he came about because I'm always on the lookout for bizarre and unusual names. And so I happened to be watching Mutiny on the Bounty and thought Fletcher was a great name.
Fletcher Christian.
And then the next morning I picked up the newspaper and was reading the obituaries of people in town and found somebody named Durnalk, and I thought, that's interesting, but I'm going to change the spelling a little bit, and so hence Fletcher Durnalk came out of that combination of 2 things.
Okay, interesting.
And yeah, it's interesting. I'm always on the lookout for people's names, and whenever I find an unusual one, I always ask them the origin of it and what it means, that type of thing.
Okay. Next question is...
it's here. I'm sorry.
It's from John.
Yes. What HAARP studies / experiments are being currently developed?
Well, interestingly enough, I found something, and I'll preface that question by this. This was an article that was in Pravda, which is the Russian newspaper.
Yeah, the Russian newspaper of the Communist Party. Actually,
right.
Believe it or not, it's still around. Anyway.
And well, I think it's still around. I don't know if it's quite in that form or not. But this is, it was an article from January 15th of 2003, and I printed out the English version. And it's basically talking about the HAARP and the detrimental effects it can possibly cause to Russia and the rest of the world, and that the Duma, which is the ruling entity, sort of like a parliament over there was very concerned about that and presented that to Putin, who was president at the time. And I just found this article to be quite fascinating, and it just goes on explaining about the potentials of geophysical weapons and the capabilities, and that that the United States obviously is not admitting to the fact that that's what it's being used for, but it's well known that high-frequency transmitters like the HAARP are up and running.
We
got to stop you right there.
We got a caller. I don't mean to interrupt you again. Go ahead.
Hi there, it's Scott from Omaha.
Oh, hey, Scott.
Oh, hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, great. Good show, guys.
Thanks.
The question I have for your guest is, at any time during writing his book, did he ever feel like maybe if he slipped into something that was a little too maybe unconventional or black box, that strange things would happen, like people follow him around or clicks on the phone line or anything like that?
That's a good question.
That feeling ever there?
Well, Scott, that's a good question. Obviously, that was certainly a concern somewhere in the back of my mind writing this, and it's been the brunt of sort of numerous family jokes, that maybe one day I just won't be here when somebody shows up for dinner. Have I had any strange or unusual events? There's been times that, and this just may be totally unrelated, but, phones would ring and, nobody's there, and, I don't know, it may be nothing, but I can't say for certain that there's been any unusual things other than the fact that, as I was telling Jay, that as soon as the book was published, before it actually even went on the market, there were two copies of the books purchased. And I have no doubt that they were purchased by the government, because I'm sure that HAARP came up on a hit list somewhere in somebody's tracking system in the government, and so they purchased them to see, what was in the book, whether it was a fictional account or, a reality type thing.
But nothing ever so obvious like a dark storm cloud with lightning over your house and nobody else did?
No.
Okay.
And hopefully not no tornadoes blowing over my house or anything like that.
Okay. Well, anything weird does happen, you got to call back in and talk to Trent and Scott and let them know.
Well, I appreciate you calling in.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah,
that would be
Scott-
kind of funny, just a lightning cloud right over. Apparently somebody in our chat room is having problems with lightning clouds right now.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you call in anyway? Phyllis, call in.
So, I'm sorry.
Talk to William.
Just one other thing. What was the... Because I actually read Pravda and Izvestia quite a lot, but what was
delivered to his home. No, I'm kidding.
Not the English version, but anyway, what was the date, an article of that?
It was January 15th of 2003.
Okay.
And the title is HAARP Poses a Global Threat.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I came across these quite by accident. Just happened to be doing some research a few months ago and found these. I had no idea that this was out there, but there were two bills, one in the Senate, the United States Senate, and one in the United States House of Representatives. And they're basically mirror bills of the other. The first was introduced in the Senate March 3rd of 2005 by that wonderful Texan, K. Bailey Hutchinson. And basically the bill is entitled, its purpose is to establish Weather Modification Operations and Research Board and for other purposes. And it, when you first read through it, I thought, well, this is no big deal. And I went back through it again, and as you look at under Section 2 of it, its purpose is to develop and implement a comprehensive and coordinated national weather modification policy and national cooperative federal-state program for weather modification research and development.
I guess that was the other purpose. Hold that thought. We've got another call here. Caller, you're on the air with William Beck. All right, and they hung up. All right.
Call back, caller.
That was John Ashcroft.
That was. It is Fez. And
I've got another question from the chat room here. Did you have any odd experiences at your book signings? Oh, wait a minute. Here goes the caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, it's Phyllis.
Hey Phyllis, how you
there.
doing? How's things out there in the Windy City?
Yeah, I'm telling you, if I get struck by lightning, I'm going to haunt you guys.
Oh, man. Are you on the cordless phone?
I'm actually calling on the cell phone.
Okay.
Oh, you're fine then. You're fine.
No
It
problem.
doesn't make me feel any better.
You're okay. You're
fine.
Okay. Now,
And I think the harp guy sent this to me today.
Oh, God. What do you have for us, Phyllis?
Well, and I actually posted this in the chat room, and I didn't want to call with it because I know nothing about physics or anything like that.
Well, neither do we.
I'm just a lowly writer myself. But wasn't the HAARP technology kind of devised by Tesla?
Well, that's very interesting. My notes of preparing for this evening, yes, Tesla very much factored into those, and he's a very interesting individual.
Oh yeah.
A very odd genius, as it were, protege of Edison. And interestingly enough, there is a lot of talk that the HAARP is based on a lot of his technology. And interestingly enough, the United States government purchased all his patents near the end of his life and sort of secreted them away. And supposedly that's where HAARP was born, through those things. But there's some very interesting things about Nikola Tesla. There's some talk that the event in Tugunska, Siberia in 1908, I believe it was.
That's an experiment,
Yeah, was a direct result of some of his work. And now whether or not that's true, obviously, I don't know, but I find it very fascinating that someone thinks that maybe it is. And there's a very good book out about him called A Man Out of Time by Margaret Cheney, which is a biography about him, which looks very much into his life and all the events that went on with him, and some of his inventions, which some of them are just incredible, and a man way ahead of his time.
There's a really good 1980s Tesla song called "Man Out of Time." And Tesla, no, really,
ironically enough.
Yeah, ironically enough. Maybe the name of the record, I don't know. It's Edison's Medicine's the name
Edison's
of it?
Medicine's,
you're right.
That's the name of the album, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I own that record. It's
that's
good,
really weird.
All the Tesla stuff's good records, man.
And you're showing your age by calling it a record.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm 30 years old. I'm 30 years old. I had a record player when I was like 5.
The record.
Well, I would have said audiophile.
Yeah, MP3.
MP3, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, thanks for calling in, Phyllis. We hope you don't get struck by lightning.
Yeah, take care up there.
All right, talk to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right.
Interesting. Well, to get back to this bill that we were talking about, the Senate bill, they define research and development and what all that means, and then what exactly their term for weather modification is, which means changing or controlling or attempting to change or control by artificial methods the natural development of atmospheric cloud forms or precipitation forms which occur in the troposphere. Wow. That's incredible.
That's the other stuff, right?
Yeah. That's scary. And as I said, there was a bill in the Senate and the House, and they were the House bill was by Mark Udall from Colorado, and these came to light and were passed in October of 2005, and just sort of all slipped under the radar without a lot of knowledge by a lot of people. I didn't know anything about it. As I said, I just kind of happened up on it unexpectedly, but I was just blown away when I read that stuff.
Chuck, did you know anything about this?
No, I hadn't heard anything about it, honestly.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be on tabs with this, Chuck.
He keeps up with this.
Yeah, come on, Chuck.
But actually, to tell you the truth, I may have heard something in reference to it, and that may have been where I heard about your book initially, too.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you go to govtrack.us and look up H.A.A.R.P 2995, and you can find out there, or if you look up Senate Bill 517 of the 109th Congress, you can find out about that. But they're basically the same bill, just one for each house.
Right.
Okay. I've got a question from another
Sure.
chat room person. and it is, did you have any odd experiences at your book signings?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I've had some great experiences. One of the things I was fascinated by when I did a benefit up in New England for a program called the Volunteers in Warwick, Rhode Island, that a lot of people knew about the HAARP project up there, more so than anywhere else I'd done them. I was kind of fascinated by that. But I was doing a book signing at Redstone Arsenal, which is an Army base in Huntsville, Alabama, and at the PX there, and was having a very nice book signing and doing some good business. And this older gentleman came up, and I'm assuming he was a retired military person, but came up and sort of skeptically asked me what the book was about. And so I began to tell him, and he launches into a tirade.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, just going berserk and screaming, almost screaming, "Nobody controls the weather. Only God does. How can you write anything like this?" You know, and and the lady who was the manager of the PX was standing behind me. She was getting ready to call the military police to come and escort him out. And I'm just trying to calmly talk to this guy. I said, "Sir, just kind of calm down. This, it's a novel here." I said, if you want to believe this is happening, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But it's a novel. And he just went off again. And so I finally said, "Look, you can think whatever you want to, but you're interrupting my book sales. So do you mind moving off somewhere else before we call the MPs?" And so he was still walking away with his arms going up and down in the air.
Wow.
I certainly struck a nerve with that one.
I guess so.
Definitely. Oh my gosh.
That was quite hilarious. So.
Wow. Okay, we got a
book signing.
We got another question, but I want to make sure we have time for this. I want to get the Captain Kangaroo story.
Yes, let's talk about the Captain Kangaroo story.
Okay. Captain Kangaroo, for those who are too young to know, but I suppose probably most of your folks may know him, was a fella who had a program on television, started in the 50s and ended, I believe, in 82 or 83. And it was a children's program, and before Mr. Rogers and all the other ones, and had a number of characters on the programs, and Mr. Green Jeans, and they also had cartoons, those type of things. But it was a very, very good program for children, very educational. And so when my wife and I moved to Vermont, and my wife's a nurse also, and we were working at this little hospital, one day somebody said, "Captain Kangaroo's coming in as a patient." And so anyway, it was my pleasure to be able to take care of him on numerous occasions, as well as my wife. And I remember the first time I went into his room, and here's this man that I watched growing up as a child all my life, and he's laying in a hospital bed, and I'm sort of bumbling around, and I'm nervous, and I'm thinking, boy, this is just stupid, Bill. Come on.
Oh, man.
But so anyway, he put me at ease quite quickly, and he was there for a number of months, and we became friends and had some excellent conversations, and I got to know him, and he was just a fantastic individual, man way ahead of his time, intelligent, bright, just a delight, and I can't say enough about him. And it was just a pleasure to be able to get to know him and share part of his life with someone that I had grown up with. And he was someone who didn't have much tolerance for people who, if I may use this, not too smart.
I hear you.
And he expressed that to me numerous times, not about me, but some of the other people who worked there at the hospital at times. And he was rather adamant in his stance about that. But I just enjoyed him immensely. I don't know, a lot of people may not know that, and he didn't talk about this, but he was very much a war hero in World War II.
Oh, wow.
And I found that out years before I ever met him. Lee Marvin, who was an actor, happened to be on the Johnny Carson program. I was talking about when he was wounded on Iwo Jima, and that he had received a medal, and he said, you don't need to talk about me. He said, you need to get Bob Keeshan on your show if you want to talk about a war hero. And Bob Keeshan is Captain Kangaroo. And so I don't know what all he did there, but apparently it was quite phenomenal. And there was an article in the Rutland Herald, which is a newspaper in Rutland, Vermont, where someone had written in while I was taking care of him about Bob Keeshan and his heroism on Iwo Jima and stuff. And I happened to mention to him that I had read that article, and he just kind of smiled and said thank you and didn't elaborate any more on it. So obviously not something he wanted to relive, and can certainly understand that. But as I said, he was just a delightful individual, and it was a real pleasure to get to know him in the number of months that I did. I learned a lot from the man.
Very cool.
Good guy.
Okay,
let's hit that last question.
Oh yeah, well, I was gonna say what we're gonna do now is we're gonna give a copy of your book away.
Oh yeah, okay.
Since we have people that are going back and forth in this chat room
good.
So I had one. I don't know where he went. There was one guy, LB, and a number 074, whatever. I don't know what it was. Yeah.
71.
That wanted to know more about your book and was mad that we weren't talking about it. No, I apologize. 2 hours goes by so quick sometimes.
Boy, it sure does. It seems like about 30 minutes. So.
Oh man, it's crazy. But if you want to know more about the book, if you're still listening out there, give us a call here now. The first person that calls, we're going to give you a copy of this signed autograph, same thing, yeah.
Signed and autographed.
Signed and autographed, yeah. This autographed copy of Harp's Fury, a Bryson McGann novel. This is a hardback. We'll send it out to you. Just call us up here now, 800-960-2289. That's 800-960-2289. If you're listening to the live recording, which you are if you're listening to it right now, and give us a call, and we'll send this out to you. So we'll wait for your call, and while we're waiting, we're going to take a question from John. Do you have that question?
Yes. Is HAARP technology dangerous, and why?
That's a big question.
Ooh, that is a big question.
Yeah.
If HAARP technology is as it is purported to be in its sense that it is a harmful thing, I would have to say that yes, it is, because of the potential for mass destruction that it has. Now, obviously, from a military standpoint, if you have a weapon of that capability, that is something that is very advantageous. I mean, you think about it, it would make the perfect weapon in the fact that you can cause devastations to huge areas. There's no nuclear fallout. There's no bomb casings to trace who it came from. You can devastate populations by drought. You can inundate them with snowfall, and so the idea of the potential damage that this could cause becomes exponential. And yet, on the other side of that coin, the possibility of great things becoming from something like this is certainly evident too. But I think that whenever you have something of this capability, if it truly does what they say it is purported to do, that the dark side, so to speak, will be used much more than the potential for good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and straight into that.
We're on a 2-minute delay, so a lot of times people get it, a little after. We don't care if you've called in before or not. You can call us here, and if you called in earlier tonight, I don't care. Whoever calls in is going to get this book, and it's a great read. So you're going to miss out if you don't call. 800-960-2289. We don't even charge for shipping here. My God.
Yeah.
Absolutely, positively free. One of the few free things left in life.
That's right.
And it makes a great Christmas gift.
Exactly. You've got the line down pat.
Stock up for the holidays.
That's right. Let me just add, too, that if people wish to email me, my email address is William Beck, B-E-C-K, @booksbybeck.com.
And that's also his website, www.booksbybeck.com. So we're holding on the line here, and I'm waiting. I know somebody's going to pick it up and call.
Yeah.
Chuck's shaking his head no.
Well, we only got about 3 minutes here. 2 minutes.
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes. So if you don't call, we're sending it out next week or something. So we've got quite a store shed of books now.
Yeah,
because
we do.
We used to play this little game at the end of the show called the Wotu $2 Crack House Pyramid. And we played this. I want the free book plus $10. No, you cannot have the free book.
Yeah, we'll just stick it in page 43.
Yeah, but it's.
Well, I did have a great acknowledgement the other day. I got an email from a doctor in Florida. And he said, I have not read a book in over 2 years. And he said, I read your book. You made me want to start reading again. And I thought,
wow.
If I never sell another book, that testimonial, hopefully I will sell a lot more books.
You need to quote him. You need to quote him on that right there, man. That's a great.
Yeah.
That's a great quote for a back of a book somewhere. Dr. So and so.
Exactly. So what a great thing for somebody to say. I was very pleased to hear that. So and all I can say is if you like book 1, book 2 is going to blow you away.
That's awesome. Well, William, we're out of time and no one's called, but we will give this away next week. I promise you. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and we enjoyed having you.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
We'll definitely have you back when that next one comes out. Keep in touch, okay?
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All righty. Wow, that was cool.
This sure was.
And there goes the call. Of course, somebody called. Go ahead and answer.
All right.
You're on the air. Who we got?
Guess who?
Who?
Laura.
Laura, okay. I'm getting so many calls from the women now, Laura. They all get.
It's because of this music.
It's the music.
I
know. Well, anyway, it's the end of our show now.
I know. I figured.
It's okay though.
That's all right. You got the book.
Yep. All right. Well, bye, Laura. We're gonna end it. So,
okay.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
That was this week's edition of World of the Unexplained. I'm sorry we're running a little over tonight, but who's next week? Do you know? Anybody know?
World War III? No. Climo and suicide?
No, that's not. I know that.
U.S. versus.
It is.
USA,
it is. U.S.
Is it really?
USA.
God, there goes the phone again. Pick it up. Who we got?
Phyllis.
Phyllis, hey, man.
I braved the lightning. I want a book.
All right, Phyllis. I'll talk to Laura. She'll probably be cool giving you the book. I don't know.
Oh no. That's okay.
No, she gets a bunch of them too. So let me see here. All right. Well, listen next week, Phyllis. I've got to end the show, man. I'm gonna get beat. Okay. Let me. We'll tune in next week.
Chaos.
All right. We'll talk to you later. All right. God almighty. All right. Next week is Robert Damon Schneck, the President's Vampire. This should be a fun show.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
All right. Well, guys, God, we're running over.
Chaotically enough, we stumble on out like a...
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm Jay Scott, your only JD DJ on the OmniSound Radio 1 network.
I'm Trent Lackey. We're coming to you from Curtisville, North Carolina.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your feet, man.
What is that? Nobody steps over my line, Chuck. You're out of here.
That was Chuck, and go ahead, Trent. Give your line.
Right, a small town where we talk about big things.
All right, we out. See you next week.
But Chuck won't be here.
He will.
God, you nutball.